If you never fully play your wild card, you can never be wrong about it. Nobody can judge it. Nobody can tell you that it's not as good as you think it is. And by keeping it hidden, you keep that potential alive. So you can tell yourself, I am going to be a 7-figure business owner, or I am going to be in Forbes, or whatever is in your mind about the thing that you see is in your future. You are holding that potential alive because it's linked to this wild card that you're protecting so tightly, because if you protect it and you keep it hidden, then nobody can tell you different. And therefore that potential is still there. So hiding it feels like the strategy. It feels like you are protecting your best asset. But what you're actually doing is you're killing that potential. Welcome to Rich Work, the podcast for established female entrepreneurs ready to turn their expertise into premium clients and consistent high-ticket revenue. I'm Rachel Pearson, global brand and business strategist, skincare obsessed, and always distracted by booking the next mini break. Here you'll learn how to position like a luxury brand, attract clients who love to invest, and build wealth that actually lasts, so you can create the business and life you want, not someone else's version of success. This is where premium positioning and building wealth meet for women who are rewriting the rules. Let's get into it. You are sat on a wild card, and that feels the riskiest thing to you. In today's episode, we are talking about what genuinely makes you irreplaceable to your clients in this category of one world that we are living in. You are irreplaceable. And why you are hiding it is not because you don't know it. As I talk through this episode, I can imagine you're going to feel this pit in your stomach where you go, oh, she sees it. She knows it. And you're going to feel almost like this ball of energy that you want to protect, like this little burning ball of fire. That is the thing that is going to come alive as you listen to this episode, and you're going to want to push it down. And this is where you have opportunity to change it. This is where you get to be seen, because you have something which is what I call your wild card, and you have never fully played it. And you will never fully play it unless you shift from wanting to protect it. What is happening by you protecting this wild card is that you are keeping it hidden. This is your edge. This is the thing where people go, how did you do that? I don't know how you did that, but it is incredible. This episode is where we go into what that wild card is, why you are sat on it, and what it is costing you to keep it hidden, so that once and for all, you shift it. So stay with me. Dive into the prompts at the end in the show notes so that you can really get clear and confront what your wildcard is and how to make it true and visible for you. So let's start with this definition, because this isn't about your niche or showing your methodology or even about your offer or what you call yourself. Your wildcard is a thing that is so specific to you that it cannot be replicated. It's not what you do. And this is where people get quite hung up on it, because they think, well, I have to put myself into this box. I have to label it like this. I have to write it this way so I can put it in my Instagram bio. It's not that. What I'm talking about is the quality or capability that makes people say, there is no one else like her. So as you know, I come from a background of working in luxury and advising luxury brands. And when marketing these brands, this is what they have built on. Even when we think about product-based brands like Chanel, those brands didn't become irreplaceable by doing what everybody else was doing and doing it better. When Chanel started the brand, she committed to a point of view that was so specific. It could not be replicated. How women's workwear changed, that is what she brought. If you haven't listened to that episode on the business silhouette, then I suggest diving back into that, listening to this episode straight after this one. Luxury brand strategy at its core is not about broad appeal. It is about being deep, and specifically deeper on who you are not for, and what you do that is your edge. And this is where the wild card comes in. So for me, my wild card is I can see the exact problem in a business without being given tons of context. I can walk into a conversation And within minutes, I've named the thing that has been invisible to the person living inside of it. Not totally invisible to them because they know, but they don't want to see it because they don't know how to articulate it. They haven't been able to put their finger on it and be sharp about it. And so therefore they hold on to it. They hide away. I can go in and I see straight away the very nuanced gap that is keeping them plateaued at a revenue level or a pattern or a team level. And then we shift everything around it. Now, that's not just how I've been trained. I do have a background in marketing. I do understand business. And I have been around people that run very successful businesses. But I was doing this work when I was new, when I did not know anything, when I was a graduate, when I went straight into business, having done an English degree. It's why I got promoted so quickly, because this is my thing from the very beginning. I was always parachuted in to save accounts when I was in advertising that were bombing, that clients were unhappy about, accounts that needed to be turned around quickly. And for a long time, I said to myself that my thing was because I worked so fast. I was fast at producing. I could turn things around very quickly. I could make something that felt like a disaster zone quickly turn into the highest performing account. And for years, I told myself the story that I'm a quick worker. I'm a hard worker. I get shit done. Holy moly, was I hiding and holding back on what I am really good at. I was keeping myself in a loop for so long to work hard to keep proving myself because I kept on saying, well, that's my thing. That's what I do. My thing is that I work hard. And guess what? That very quickly leads to burnout. My thing is not that I work hard. I do work hard, but that's because I love my business. My thing is that I am wired to see these gaps, which means that transformation happens rapidly, whether that is in a big business when I worked in corporate or with the clients that I work with now. So even in my personal experience, my wild card, I didn't own it for years. I still built a multi-six-figure business off not owning it, but it felt much, much harder because I framed that as something that I do, that I create, that I produce, part of the service, part of the process, and I softened it. I didn't want to articulate what I am exceptional at. And there was a time where it was about a year ago, maybe 18 months ago, it really came to the forefront where I was working with clients where they were having insane results of, having their highest month in business, the first month they were working with me, having been in business for 5 years. And this happened. It became a pattern again. And I was exhausted, and my business as well, my own revenue was starting to drop at the time that my clients were having their highest revenue. Now, this isn't a message of, because my clients are making this money, I should be making this money. I work with clients who make a lot more money than I bring into my business currently. That's not a challenge. That's not an issue. But I really started to feel the gap in how I was showing up for myself and showing up in my business, and that I was just working harder and harder to keep up this momentum, to keep up with the status and level of client I was working with. And that's not what they wanted from me. They weren't putting any pressure on me. Their expectation, it wasn't like they were in my DMs and saying, why haven't you looked at this piece of content? Why haven't you done that? I didn't hear from them for sometimes days on end. This was on me, that I was really feeling that discomfort of, if I'm not producing enough, then I'm not successful enough. And that was holding me back from how I was showing up, which then impacted my revenue. And that was when I was like, Rachel, this is not it. This is not a strategy problem. This is not a sales problem. I know how to sell. I know how to create content. I know how to run a business. This is not that. So what is going on here? What's the deeper level that's going on here? And I looked across the work that I was doing with clients, and I really challenged myself to look at, where am I making this small? Where am I making it easy for myself to just dismiss this as something that I do rather than something that is truly exceptional and my edge. And it was uncomfortable. And this is where I do want to recognize what is going on internally at this stage. If you are feeling this and you're resonating with it, if you never fully play your wild card, you can never be wrong about it. Nobody can judge it. Nobody can tell you that it's not as good as you think it is. And by keeping it hidden, you keep that potential alive. So you can tell yourself, I am going to be a 7-figure business owner, or I am going to be in Forbes, or whatever is in your mind about the thing that you see as in your future. You are holding that potential alive because it's linked to this wild card that you're protecting so tightly, because if you protect it and you keep it hidden, then nobody can tell you different, and therefore that potential is still there. So hiding it feels like the strategy. It feels like you are protecting your best asset. But what you're actually doing is you're killing that potential. It's not alive. It's alive in your mind. But you know what's also highly alive? Is your frustration, your anger that comes through when you like, why is that happening for that person over there? I know that I'm capable of that. You're not doing it out of bitterness, like you happy for whatever is going on, whatever somebody else is celebrating. But it is that anger with yourself of, why am I not being as big as I know that I can be? Why am I keeping myself smaller? And then it feels harder, right? This is the loop we get into. It feels harder to then go out and play the wild card, because then you feel, well, if I play the wild card and I already feel in this place where everything feels quite fragile and I'm frustrated with myself, and I play that wild card and then it doesn't work, it doesn't come out how I think it will or I want it to be, then what then? What do I have to play? And this is where you are doing yourself such a disservice, because you are saying that your wild card is one and done. Like, let me bring out this reality to you. In your beautiful subconscious, you are protecting yourself, keeping that wild card hidden, because you have convinced yourself on the logic that once you say this thing, that's it, you're done. There's nothing more for you to give. You talk about this wild card that you have and people don't respond to it. Oh, that's it. Got nowhere else to go then. Is that you? No. Heck no. You are somebody who is constantly evolving. You push things. You live to that edge. You're curious or looking for how can you become better? Like into self-development, into realizing your potential. That is who you are at the core. But you're treating this wild card like that's not part of who you get to be. It's like that's the thing which doesn't get to evolve with you. And I hear it, right? I've just gone through my own experience with this and how hard it can be to let that protection go. But do you really want to be the person that sits and lives in indecision, in the what if, in the story of your potential, rather than the reality and the lived experience and the beautiful messiness of letting that expand, letting that wild card expand with your work, with who you are? When you are diluting yourself in this way, it is the most dangerous place to be in for your business, for your revenue, but for your self-expression. And it can be really subtle. So you might be listening to this thinking, I am convicted in what I do, and I do talk about my point of difference. But are you sanding down those edges of it? Are you trying to make it sound more palatable, more familiar, more like what you think your industry wants to hear? I know from my work in luxury brand strategy that this is the thing that kills premium positioning faster than anything else, is the moment that a brand starts chasing that broad appeal. You know, in luxury, it's often like making the logo bigger, dropping the price point slightly, collaborating with mass market. It loses the thing that makes that brand desirable. And I am going through this at the time of recording this podcast episode. You're feeling it really raw, probably, how I'm talking about it. I'm going through this myself at the moment, and in another level, right? I'm playing my wild card, been doing it now for the last year. And then there's an expansion, right? It's expanded over time, but there is a deepening that's happening right now that's very real for me. And I'm sharing quite vulnerably on the podcast. My wild card is now moving into areas that I know that I've been softening. One of those is how relentless I am. And I've spoken about this in other podcast episodes, but I still realize that I'm softening how much I dedicate to my business, to my service to clients, to what I believe in, to how I think that you have to be fully committed. And we have this phrase all in, and I don't think that a lot of people live it, because effortless sells, right? Particularly in the coaching space, that's what everyone wants to show you, how easy it can be. And so I lent out of that. I lent out of no, I do believe that you have to work hard. I do believe that it does take hustle. I do believe that there are going to be late nights. I stayed up till 2 a.m. the other day working on one of my funnels in the back end of my business. I had to be up at 5:30 to get my kids ready. That's not every night, but it's the reality. Like, that's the choice I make. Those are the things that I do believe you have to have in place sometimes to build the bigness of what I believe you can build. And in doing that, in softening what I believe in, I hid the things that do make me irreplaceable, that edge of my business knowledge, the sharpness of how commercial I am, my drive, the fact that I work with this kind of intensity that most people can find uncomfortable is exactly why clients come in and work with me who feel very activated by that. And so I have been making myself look more like everyone else, even though I have been playing my wild card. And that's not happening anymore. So this is where your wild card gets to evolve with who you are as well. And I do think there is a important distinction in this, though, of how I am bringing this forward and what I think really enables your wild card to stand with your clients and not become a spicy hot take opinion. There is a lot of noise overall right now. I've spoken in previous episodes about the amount of content, the amount of volume of information and content that we have access to. And what is coming through more and more is, because people are trying to differentiate in what they say, are these spicy takes, being contrarian. I think a lot of women may hear this phrase like play your wild card and think that means being provocative. That's not what I mean. Your wild card is uncomfortable, not because of how you say it, but because of what it names. When I tell a client that I can see exactly what is going on with their positioning within 10 minutes of talking to them, that's not a hot take. That's me being so sharp. And the reason it's uncomfortable is because I hold up to them, I reflect back to them the thing that they have not wanted to see. Because again, they're not playing their wild card. It names a thing that they already know, but they're not saying out loud. And I don't need to go out and say that in a aggressive way, in a way that's not my natural voice. And natural voice is my natural voice. For you, that might look different. For you, it might be really spicy. That might be natural for you. But the point I'm making here is that the wild card is in what you're playing. It's not in how you have to say it. This is what luxury brand strategy does incredibly well. It is not always the loudest. It simply is what it is. So completely, so consistently to the right person that they recognize it immediately. And this is what your clients want too. They don't need somebody who's going to start sounding like everyone else's hot take. They want somebody who cuts through that noise and names the actual problem so directly in such plain language that that is the thing that feels the most contrarian, most provocative thing that you could say. If you're listening to this and you're recognizing that you have been playing in the safe version, showing up in a way that is palatable rather than in a specific sharp way, on June the 12th, I am running an intimate mastermind day into evening private dining event where together in the room, we are looking at what makes you irreplaceable. It is designed for women who are ready to stop softening the thing that makes them unmatched There are limited spaces left. We are directly in central London for the whole afternoon into a beautiful private dining experience. Masterminding with me, I have an incredible speaker who's coming in as well to talk about how to make yourself unmatched in your sales approach. The link is in the show notes to find out more. When you are diluting your wild card, you don't just attract in the wrong clients, you actively repel the right ones. The right client is the one who needs exactly what you are, is looking for that sharp, fully expressed version of you. And when she finds that softened version, she thinks, this isn't quite right. This is not who I move with. And she sometimes can't put her finger on it. But the reason is that you've presented a version of yourself that is designed to be acceptable. And she needed the version that is only right for her. So what does playing your wild card actually look like? Firstly, name it. Not the version that you think is going to become your new Instagram bio or your new title. You're going to do a pinned post on it. I want the real version. The thing that when you say it out loud makes you feel slightly sick. That's usually the one. I had a client yesterday who is in Calibration Mastermind that put into Telegram a piece of content and said, it makes me feel a bit sick. And I said, in capitals, post it now. It was the most honest way I'd seen her write. Secondly, stop framing that edge that you've got around what you do and start owning it as who you are. There is a real difference between I help you with your positioning and I see the gap in your positioning before you've even finished your first sentence. That's me, right? I don't just help you with your positioning. I see that gap straight away. The first one, though, is a service. The second is my wildcard. And the third is let it repel people. Not because you are being aggressive, confrontational, that doesn't fit your natural tone, but play your wildcard fully. Some people will find it too much, and that's exactly why it's a wild card. You don't play a wild card because you're playing it safe. You need to play the wild card to filter. So this is bringing forward a big part of the luxury brand strategy that the best houses in the history have always used. It's not about being broad appeal. It is specific magnetism. The brand that tries to be for everyone becomes for nobody. Whereas the right people will feel an immediate and specific recognition. This is exactly what I need. You are exactly who I've been looking for. And that is what makes you irreplaceable. It's not your methodology, it is your wild card. So here is what I want you to take from today's episode. Your wild card isn't a risk, hiding it is. The thing that you've been protecting, keeping hidden, softening, framing as a feature rather than your superpower, that's the thing your best clients are already looking for. And every time you present the safe version, you make yourself harder to find and harder to hire. Play the card. Next week, we are going into how the clients you're currently tolerating are the ones who are actually costing you. It is a sharp episode, not just energetically, but also commercially. That is next week on Rich Work. Make sure that you go into the show notes to learn more about the June event and also to download the prompts that are going to help you do this wildcard work for yourself. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in to Rich Work. I'd love it if you left a review. It helps other women to find us. In the meantime, follow me on Instagram at rachelpearson.co for a different take on premium positioning, one that's not about fitting a box. See you next week.